God puts us in nations, in places, not by mistake, but to do a job. What if we opened our eyes to the needs of our colleagues, of our leaders, of our subordinates, and we were a priest on their behalf?
My name is Brett Johnson.
I'm Lynn Johnson.
And we'd like to welcome you to the Repurposing Business podcast that will be coming to you each week.
Welcome to Season 6, How to Work Like God in 31 Ways. We're on day 21 of Work Like God in 31 Ways, and people say that people forget vision in 21 days. So this is a good time to remind us, why are we actually doing this series? Well, you'll recall that my friend Johan Carsten says that the way we make disciples is to teach people to work the way that God designed them to work. So, to do that, we need to understand, how does God work? Because if we're made in the image of God, and we can understand how God works, then we can better pattern our life after Him. So, understanding the ways of God, that's what we're doing with the Work Like God in 31 Ways. So, way number 21, work with revelation, not just information or calculation. Work with revelation, not just information or calculation. Some years ago, we were doing work in India, and we met Sudhir and Aruna, who had started a business called Till Spices. It was a fascinating story because they had worked in other industries, such as advertising and doing some computer networking type of work. And Aruna decided that she wanted a business that she could actually understand and be passionate about. So she set about fasting and praying for many days. Towards the end of her fast, God gave her a recipe for how to make a sauce that could go into dishes such as biryani and others. And it had no preservatives, was extremely flavorful, many ingredients, and would cut down the time that it would take someone to prepare these wonderful dishes. This came from revelation, not from calculation, not from studying recipe books. Now she had it confirmed and tested by well-known chefs. Ultimately, they sold to airlines, to restaurants, and so on. The key point is that work involves revelation from God. Now, we don't have the revelation so that we just cover up our own laziness or sloppiness. It takes work to ask God, what should this product look like? What should this service be? And we have a number of friends who have products that God has given them in a manner of revelation. So how can you engage this practically? Firstly, you can take time to ask God, God, what do you say about this product? How would you like it to be delivered? What needs would you like it to meet? Where could my business be better serving other people? Is there anything missing? And ask God to reveal that to you. Sometimes He'll reveal to you the needs of your clients so that you can go and better meet those needs. At other times, He'll give you a product without even knowing that there's a client for the product. We had a situation in Cape Town where a gentleman had started a business and he'd set aside 100,000 rands to start the company, but felt that God wanted him to give away 70,000. Now he's left with a net 30% of his startup capital. Shortly after that, he got an idea in the middle of the night about making a particular valve to constrict the flow of water. And he mocked up a prototype and went to the city of Cape Town and said, could you use something like this? He didn't even know there was a need. And they said, we've been looking for something like that for years. And they purchased many thousands of the unit from him. So work with revelation. In the beginning, you laid the foundations of the earth, it says in Psalm 102, verse 25, and the heavens are the works of your hands. Psalm 104 talks a lot about the different things that God has made, creatures, things in nature, and it's our job to sit back and to reflect on what God has done and how He's done it, so we can understand the nature of His work. I encourage you to read Psalm 104. It's fantastic. So learn to examine those things. There was a gentleman who was the CEO of a company in the UK, Blake Pascal, and their biggest competitor sent somebody over to see what they were doing. And the gentleman went back to Australia after a while and said, well, every day in the early afternoon, the CEO locks the door, stops all calls. And the competitor was asking, well, what does he do? He said he spends time with the creator of the universe, asking him how he runs creation. So it's a time of reflection, a time of considering how God does things. Scripture encourages us not just to know the laws of God, but to know the ways of God. Final story, I worked with a company in California some years ago. They were in the space of genomics at the time when genomic research and the mapping of the human genome was still a big deal. And I asked the gentleman who came up with tons of products, what percentage of these products that you come up with is inspiration and what percentage is calculation? And he said it's 90% inspiration. So calculation is good, logic is good, information is good. And if we're to work like God, we have to add on to those things revelation. Whether we're starting with revelation or we're adding revelation, we have to include the supernatural working of God so that our work is not just what can be accomplished with human logic and effort.